normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
This is from the Post-Millennial. YouTube removes Steven Crowder's reporting on Nashville shooter Manifesto, claiming violation of violent criminal organizations policy. So Crowder does this big breaking story. It is now confirmed, verified, several pages of the manifesto, I should say of the journal and documents from the individual, showing an anti-white motivation. It may not be the only motivation, but it appears to be that woke critical race theory was a component of what drove the individual to go and take the lives of several children and faculty members. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say this. I think one of the big reasons why the mainstream press and many political individuals, politicians, are suppressing that story is not because of the fear of the privacy or anything like that, violating privacy. It's because they always want to immediately jump to gun control. Yeah. Anytime something like this happens, it's not what was the cause behind this. It was all that matters is guns. Yet in Chicago, guns don't really matter. In Baltimore, it's not really. It's only when there's violent extremism. And I think the issue is whether it be even whatever you describe, identitarian extremism, whether it's pro or anti-white, they want to use these things for political gain, and they want to push away any responsibility they may have for their failed gun policies. So I want to say that as we start this segment, shout out, go to timcast.com, watch Infringed, become a member if you haven't already. For those that are just tuning in, go to timcast.com, right on the front page, you will see a Lauren Southern film, Infringed, Gun Rights in America. It is nearly 2 hours. You gotta watch it. You guys did amazing work on this. But let's break this down. YouTube has a bunch of crazy rules on guns. They take it very, very seriously. Now, I think it's fair to a certain degree, right? YouTube says no live streaming any kind of gun content. And I'm like, their concern is that someone's going to go on a rampage. But I honestly don't think that makes sense. You can't post any kind of violent criminal activity on YouTube at all. Why ban live streams? I think the big issue, YouTube, Facebook, and probably Instagram, they don't want people promoting gun rights in the United States or anywhere, and they can't just outright remove it. But there have been a bunch of issues that have happened with YouTube a while and Google. I remember this is a really funny story. Back in 2018, YouTube banned guns from shopping, and they were so stupid they banned Gundam Wing. Do you guys know what Gundam is?
Oh, I know Gundam.
Gundam is an anime. And it's Gundam, and they're giant fighting Japanese robots in space. Yeah. And Google banned people trying to buy it because they were trying to suppress the word gun. So I certainly think it's overtly political, and they are working. Let me just add this to it. When we learned a while ago, but now with confirmation from the GOP, that the government is colluding with Stanford University and big tech organizations to silence and suppress the rights of individuals, absolutely YouTube and Facebook are taking a political stance to suppress our rights, first and second.
What I don't get is I feel like I see these videos on YouTube of like a dude walking into a shop, and then the shop pulls out his weapon and fires at the guy, and like they're all on YouTube.
What do you mean, like a movie?
Videos? What's that?
Like a movie?
No, like security camera footage of a guy coming in to rob a store. Are you sure? Because I'll see like people
that's on
doing
X. That's
for
on
sure
Twitter,
on X,
Twitter
but
X.
like it'll be like a guy doing talking about the video, and then the guy will walk in and he'll pull out the gun and like.
If it's like a mainstream media channel, I remember after some of the mass shootings that happened, and the whole monetization video issue came about on YouTube. Like Jimmy Fallon Tonight, Jimmy Kimmel, all of these people were able to do videos about the mass shootings that were monetized, but no one else could. So you may have seen that on mainstream media channels go ahead.
There are a couple channels that do cover that. There's one called Active Self-Protection, which I forget the guy's name, but he actually covers international stuff. A lot of times you'll have stuff from South America, but it's always some kind of security footage, and he will go over what could have been done better if it was an actual self-defense shooting, if it was
it's
just
probably not monetized though.
Yeah,
probably
Donut
not.
operators
I don't imagine.
Donut does that too.
Yeah, Donut does the same.
Self-protection has 3 million subscribers.
Donuts, yeah.
So I think I don't want to talk about the strategies people use to get around.
Then we won't.
these issues.
Yeah, it's not straightforward. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not.
But, and we know there are a lot of very serious rules. I remember that a bunch of the big gun YouTubers were talking about the restrictions that were placed, and they're weird and hard to understand. But I think it's fair to say YouTube taking down this manifesto serves nothing but the gun control narrative and the left liberal establishment narrative. If it comes out, it's not just about guns, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's also about critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion. It's like, the extremist ideology of the left is resulting in extremists taking action. As a component, there's more to this story. We haven't gotten the full release here. But I think a core component is there are powerful interests that want to ban guns in government and the private sector. And it is beneficial if you can shut down any motivating, any information on motivation. So then when no one knows what happened, you can say, guess we got to ban guns.
Yep.
I'm concerned that and I always hate to pin it on the CCP because I want the United States and China to be allies long term. But for them to be like, hey, Alphabet, Google's parent company, money, money, money. You want to roll in China? We don't want you to have certain gun rights things. And what are they really trying to get the United States to screw itself by removing its own amendments? Come on, our Constitution is more important than corporate oligarchy. And we cannot let foreigners stop us from exercising our rights and cherishing our rights.
Yeah, it's actually, there's always the point of, why arm yourself? The government's so powerful, they'll just nuke you, whatever. Well, it's actually very hard to fight large, populations that are all armed and spread out in a diaspora, whether you're in rice fields or in the Middle East. It's always proven difficult. And if you can just psychologically disarm a population by convincing them that they don't want or need or even have these things in their awareness. It's so funny. Actually, when I was checking in for my flight on the way here, there was a sign behind us that said, declare if you have a gun. And the Canadian guy standing beside me was asking the lady, do a lot of people actually bring guns from here, Vancouver? And the lady was like, oh, believe it or not, they do. And he's like, I thought no one owned them. And this was a conversation I witnessed. They want that to be the average person's thought process. They want the average person to not even conceptualize or conceive that. Why would I need a gun? No one does that. That's for hicks.
It's a long-term strategy, right?
Yeah.
So
they've been largely successful, I think, honestly. Unless you're a person that is... It tends to be people that are pro Second Amendment in the U.S. They tend to be people that are also politically motivated, politically active. The reason that there hasn't been success in the U.S. with significant anti-gun legislation and gun control, the reason that there's been victories for the past 20 or so years so predominantly is because of the fact that the people that are pro-gun are so politically active. The idea that there's a lot of money going to individual Congress people from the gun industry, that's a fallacy. The money that's going to the money that is actually big money is from Raytheon. They're making missile batteries. They're making drones. They're making serious the kind of weaponry that's sold to states. The companies that make small arms generally don't have these big contracts, and they're not giving tons of money. The idea that the NRA is responsible is a fallacy. Most gun owners really look at the NRA as a meme and as a joke, and it's where all the FUDs go. So the idea that it's something other than grassroots preventing significant legislation, that's all a fallacy.
But I think we're winning.
Yeah, for sure. We're so lucky that the 20th century was televised and recorded, because what Hitler did was so egregious. He disarmed his population and then sent in the shock troops to control them. And that will never happen again.
Well, I think you got a correction for us.
Sorry?
I think you got a correction for what Ian just said.
Yeah, well,
it's in the documentary.
Yeah, that's right. There's a meme that says that Hitler, he took all the guns, right? But it actually started right after World War I.
Yeah.
And Germany, because they lost the war, they had to abide by the Treaty of Versailles, and in that treaty was required that they disarm the citizens. So it was in
Japan. That was 1920, right?
1919, 1920. So it was the Allies that actually required that of Germany to disarm the population.
So they disarmed the enemy.
They used a policy that was already in place against the people. And this is what's so interesting is we always say
Same thing in China.
we're going to put in these policies for our side of politics, for the lefties. But you guys don't realize that as soon as a government that you really disagree with gets in power, they can utilize those policies against you.
But here's the important
Germany.
An important point that was brought up in Infringed. In 1920, Germany's forced to disarm their population. In 1928, they reintroduced permitting and gun registry. You want to own a gun, you got to prove that you need it for a legitimate reason to defend yourself, and then you can apply for a permit and register. And then
Now you're on the list.
Now you're on the list.
Yeah.
And when the Nazis come to power, they have a list of everyone who is armed, and they start hunting those people down.
And then, of course, the Nazis, too, they relaxed gun restrictions for Nazi Party members. But then if you're a Jew,
Same as communists.
you are not allowed to own a gun. So again, gun control is not about your safety. Right?
Gun control
It's
is
about
not
disarming
about controlling guns. It's about using guns to control you.
And this is like why these lists are so important too. Like the registries in Canada, the long gun registries they tried to put in. And right now, actually, this January, the ATF are bringing in, you need to register your stabilizing braces with the ATF, or you need to hand in modified guns with them. These registries are all to be used
And they
Real
don't,
quick,
eventually.
Phil, didn't the Supreme Court overturn the pistol brace?
Currently, there's a stay on the enforcement of the pistol brace. It's only for people that are members of GOA and FPC, which are both great pro-gun organizations, Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners of America.
So wait,
but they have the actual lawsuit against the ATF, and so their members are covered under the state.
only their members.
Only their members.
So what if you sign up right now?
You can join now, and you will be covered by the stay, but you have to be a member of either the Firearms Policy Coalition, it's Gun Policy, it's at Gun Policy on Twix, and or you have to be a member of GOA. Both are great. I'm a little partial to Firearms Policy Coalition because they're a little more hoist the black flag kind of dudes, and I like that. But you have to be covered. You have to be a member of either of those two. Otherwise, a brace is currently a felony, and you'll get 10 years, $250,000 fine if you have a braced an AR-15. They'll basically just they'll be treating it as a short barrel rifle unless you're a member of those two.
I think I'm a member of like all of them, to be honest. I think like one day I just
idea.
went to like every gun rights organization and started donating.
What does it
not
take
bad.
to become part of it?
a donation, give them your information.
So like for Canada to have a gun license, you have to have a gun club that you're a part of or a range that you're a member of, right? You have to have your PAL, your RPAL if you want to own anything that's got some real firepower or kick behind it. And you got to have like your ammo, gun separate. Guns have to be locked, have a trigger lock on them, ammunition.
That's
you know,
ridiculous.
like what do you guys have any of that comparable?
Yes.
here?
Depends where.
We have
Depends where, yeah.
we have a handful of states that people refer to as the Evil Seven.
The evil
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, and you know, when I lived in New Jersey, we had some security, concerns, and this is before I bought a gun. So I decided, you know, I need to get a gun. Well, the cops told me. Well, I was told by a cop, if it were me, I'd answer the door with a shotgun. That's all. He didn't say go buy a gun. He was like, you know what I'm saying, and I'm like, okay. And then I was told by the police, if someone were to try to break into my home, I can do nothing. If someone is actively at my door, smashing out the window and reaching in to open the door, I cannot take action against that person.
It's like Canada.
Because it would be murder. Now, if he breaks into your home, now it's a different story. Because if he breaks into your home, you are legally required to flee your home, and you still can't defend
This
yourself.
is like Canada.
Yeah.
And I said, where would I go? I'm in my house. This is where I live.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
what I was told was, when you tell that to a judge, you are saying in court, I would rather kill a man than stand outside. And that's the way the court will interpret what you are saying. And that is considered unreasonable. And they said, only if you are trapped. And I said, so if I'm backed into a corner with no doors and a guy in front of me, I can shoot him then. And what if he dies? Say, okay, that's the best part. You will now have an affirmative defense after we arrest you and charge you with a felony.
Yeah.
And you spend 6 months in prison. You can tell a judge you were trapped. Hopefully he believes you. And I was like, holy crap. Maryland's a little better. If you are outside your house watering your lawn and a guy comes up to you threatening you, you must run into your house. If the man then tries to break into your house, what I am told by law enforcement, you can then defend yourself. So actually, to a much greater degree than New Jersey, but West Virginia by far is substantially better. West Virginia, you can be on any property, whether you're indoors or outdoors, and if you are threatened, you can defend yourself. You can't just shoot anybody. This is not true. Like someone walks on your property, you're like, aha, he's coming right for me. But if you are threatened and you can justify the threat, Florida's even crazier, and Texas too. Stand your ground. Very little probable cause. You could be anywhere legally.
Yeah.
West Virginia also, it is still very similar. If you're in West Virginia, you're constitutional carry, you're walking around, someone threatens you, and you have reasonable fear of great bodily harm or death, you can defend yourself.
Dude, I was in Florida like 3 weeks ago for like 3 weeks, and I was feeling that the concealed carry thing. I was walking around like at night and looking at people, and I'm like, they all probably have guns. Just to see everyone's
Except
got a gun,
me.
and they're all looking at me and thinking he's probably got a gun, and we all just have massive respect for each other.
It's called herd immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are in a place where you can legally carry a gun, I mean, essentially you are kind of rolling the dice. Like, that person may have a gun. Do I really want? Is the fact that he bumped into me or looked at me wrong, is it worth making a comment over? Because maybe it escalates to something very bad. And if you're carrying a gun, you definitely you have to know that you can't just be like, oh, that guy's giving me a dirty look, so I'm just going to mean mug him all night long, because you're responsible for de-escalating. These are things that you have
He
to
might
understand.
have a gun too.
You know,
Exactly.
One thing that always bothered me growing up in Chicago is that I had friends who would road rage. And I'd be like, people who weren't from the South Side who didn't get it, I guess. And they'd either come from different neighborhoods or from the suburbs. We'd be driving on the highway, someone would cut them off, and they'd switch lanes, speed up and start flicking them off and screaming at them. And I'm like, bro, do you know how many stories I can tell you about a dude getting shot in the face because he decided to road rage out for no reason? I'm not saying that, you've got to back down. I'm saying choose your battles. You ain't gaining nothing by screaming at a dude in the highway and swerving around. If someone cuts you off, choose your battles. Just, it happens, man. Don't get bent out of shape. But dude, some people I knew would rage out. And there's so many stories where there's dudes with illegal guns. Now, I actually don't think the guns should be illegal, to be completely honest. People who have acquired guns in ways the state does not like, but you have a right to keep and bear arms. That being said, they acquire these guns in illegal ways, and that means they do not have good intentions. And you can't defend yourself from them because you can't have a gun. Now, because of DC versus Heller, you can have guns, but they still make it near impossible. And only recently, I think there's still issues with Maryland. Maryland was an in practice no issue state, meaning even though they say you can apply for a permit, they would never give you one. New York was similar, New Jersey was similar. Now with the latest, was it Bruin? I think the latest Supreme Court hearing, they're like, you have to give permits if people request one. So now I think Maryland's still giving people the business. But New York has started issuing permits.
So the catalyst for me leaving Massachusetts and going to New Hampshire was the last straw was when I went to the police officer, and the police went through the whole rigmarole, asked for a license to carry, and the issuing officer just flat out said, we don't give them out in the town that I'm in. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't give them out? And this is back in 2010 or so.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.